Is your bedroom silently sabotaging your health after 60? The truth is, there are 5 common items hiding in your bedroom right now that could be robbing you of restful sleep, triggering mysterious health issues, and even putting you at risk for serious complications as you age. What's most shocking? Millions of seniors have these exact items in their bedrooms and never connect them to their increasing fatigue, persistent allergies, or unexplained pain. The last item on our list is something nearly everyone over 60 has right next to their bed, and it might be the most dangerous of all. Stay with me for the next 30 minutes and I'll reveal exactly what these 5 items are, why they're particularly harmful after 60, and the simple changes you can make tonight for better sleep and improved health, even if you live in a small New York apartment with limited space. If this helps, please subscribe and tap the bell icon for more wellness tips. Please hit like if this video was helpful and dislike if you found it unsatisfactory to help us improve videos more daily. Let me ask you something personal. How long have you been sleeping on your current pillow? 6 months? A year? Maybe even 5 years or more. I want you to take a moment and think about this. The average American spends about 1/3 of their life with their face pressed against a pillow. But what most people don't realize, especially those of us over 60, is that the pillow cradling your head night after night might actually be making you sick. According to research from the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, a 2-year-old pillow can contain up to 10% of its weight in dead dust mites and their waste. Let me put that in perspective. If your pillow weighs 2 pounds, that means there could be over 3 ounces of these microscopic creatures and their droppings nestled right where you lay your head every night. But it doesn't stop there. A study from the University of Manchester found that the average pillow contains 16 different species of fungi. 16! And as we age, our immune systems naturally become less robust, making us far more susceptible to the effects of these allergens. I remember visiting Martha, a 68-year-old retired teacher living in a beautiful brownstone in Brooklyn. For years, she'd been waking up with what she called her morning headaches. She'd tried everything. Changing her diet, adjusting her sleep schedule, even expensive medications. Nothing worked. When I walked into her bedroom, I noticed she had the same decorative pillows she'd mentioned buying for her retirement celebration 7 years ago. The same pillows she rested her head on every single night. 2 weeks after replacing those pillows, Martha called me in tears. For the first time in years, she told me, I woke up without a headache. I actually feel rested. This isn't surprising when you understand what happens to our bodies when we're exposed to these allergens night after night. The Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America reports that adults over 60 are particularly vulnerable to what doctors call late-onset allergies, allergic reactions that suddenly appear in your senior years, even if you've never had allergies before. Here's what happens. First, you're exposed to allergens from your old pillow. This triggers inflammation in your sinuses and airways. Your sleep quality suffers as your body fights these irritants all night long. You wake up feeling exhausted despite a full night's sleep. This fatigue leads to less physical activity during the day. Over time, this reduced activity contributes to declining overall health. And the cycle continues, night after night. Dr. Sarah Johnson, a sleep specialist at New York Presbyterian Hospital, explains that for many of her older patients, simply replacing their pillows resulted in a 60% reduction in morning allergy symptoms and a 40% improvement in self-reported sleep quality. So how do you know if it's time to replace your pillow? Here are 3 simple tests. First, pay attention to how you feel when you wake up. If you consistently experience neck or shoulder pain, your pillow may no longer be providing proper support. Second, try the simple test. Fold your pillow in half and see if it stays folded or springs back to its original shape. If it stays folded, it's lost its supportive properties and needs to be replaced. And third, notice if your allergy symptoms are worse in the morning. If you wake up congested with itchy eyes or a scratchy throat, your pillow might be the culprit. Now let's talk solutions. Not all pillows are created equal, especially for those of us with specific needs after 60. Memory foam pillows, like this one, contour to your head and neck, providing excellent support for those with chronic neck pain. However, they tend to retain heat, which might be uncomfortable if you experience night sweats. Latex pillows offer similar support, but stay cooler throughout the night. They're also naturally resistant to dust mites and mold, making them an excellent choice for allergy sufferers. The downside? They tend to be heavier and more expensive. Down or feather pillows provide that classic soft, luxurious feel many of us grew up with. They're lightweight and easy to adjust, but for those with allergies, they can be problematic and they require more maintenance to keep clean. Then we have herbal or buckwheat pillows, which are filled with natural materials and offer excellent airflow. They're incredibly durable and can help with temperature regulation, but the texture takes some getting used to. For those of you dealing with specific issues, here's what I recommend. If you have chronic neck pain, opt for a medium firm memory foam or latex pillow with cervical support. If you experience sleep apnea or snoring, consider a wedge pillow that elevates your upper body slightly, or a specially designed CPAP pillow if you use a CPAP machine. For those suffering from acid reflux, a wedge pillow can also work wonders by keeping your upper body elevated. And if night sweats are an issue, look for pillows with cooling technology or those made from naturally cooling materials, like bamboo. Now, even with a new pillow, proper maintenance is essential. Here's what you need to do. Wash your pillowcases weekly in hot water to kill dust mites. Use a protective pillowcase with a zipper closure underneath your regular pillowcase. These act as a barrier against allergens and can be washed regularly. Every 3 months, if your pillow is washable, clean it according to the manufacturer's instructions. If it's not washable, take it outside on a sunny day and let the sun's UV rays naturally disinfect it for a few hours. And consider replacing your pillows every 18 to 24 months, even if they still seem comfortable. Let me tell you about Eleanor, a 72-year-old retired nurse living in an Upper East Side apartment. Eleanor had suffered from chronic sinus infections for years. Every few months, she'd end up on antibiotics, fighting yet another infection. Her doctors suggested various treatments, but nothing provided lasting relief. When I visited Eleanor's home, I noticed her bedroom was immaculate. Pristine, really, except for one thing. The decorative pillowcases on her bed looked brand new. But when I asked about the pillows inside, she proudly told me they were the same ones she'd had since moving into the apartment 15 years ago. Within days of replacing her pillows and adding allergen-proof covers, Eleanor noticed a difference. Her morning congestion decreased dramatically. 3 months later, she called to tell me she hadn't needed antibiotics since making the change. I thought getting older meant accepting these health problems, she told me. I never imagined something as simple as changing my pillows could make such a difference. Now, I know what you might be thinking. It's just a pillow, how much difference can it really make? But remember, we spend approximately 1/3 of our lives with our faces pressed against these pillows. Something that intimate with our bodies deserves careful consideration. Think of it this way. You wouldn't wear the same unwashed shirt for 2 years straight, would you? Yet many of us do the equivalent with our pillows. Making this one simple change could be the first step toward better sleep, fewer allergy symptoms, and improved quality of life. And isn't that worth the investment? Making this simple change with your pillows is just the beginning of transforming your bedroom into a true sanctuary for health and rest. But while you're looking at what's on your bed, have you considered what might be lurking underneath it? That brings us to our second hidden health threat. One that's hiding in plain sight, right under where you sleep every night. Have you ever thought about what's lurking under your bed right now? For most of us, that space has become the perfect hiding spot for all those things we don't know where else to put. Old photo albums, out-of-season clothes, shopping bags we might reuse someday, or even those gifts we never quite knew what to do with. It seems like the perfect storage solution, doesn't it? It's out of sight, it doesn't take up valuable floor space in our often cramped New York apartments, and we don't have to think about it. But what if I told you that all that clutter under your bed might be one of the reasons you're waking up feeling tired, congested, or even experiencing flare-ups of respiratory conditions? Let's look at this from a scientific perspective. According to research from the Environmental Protection Agency, indoor air can be 2 to 5 times more polluted than outdoor air, even in a city like New York. And one of the biggest contributors to that indoor pollution? Dust. When we store items under our beds, we create the perfect environment for dust to accumulate. Think about it. When was the last time you pulled everything out from under your bed and thoroughly cleaned that space? For most people, the answer is rarely, if ever. Dr. Michael Peterson, a respiratory specialist at Mount Sinai Hospital, explains that this dust doesn't just stay put. Every time you sit on your bed, get in or out of it, even turn over in your sleep, you're creating air movement that stirs up that dust, sending particles into the air you breathe all night long. And here's where it gets concerning for those of us over 60. Our respiratory systems naturally become less efficient as we age. The cilia, those tiny hair-like structures in our airways that help filter out particles, become less effective. Our lung capacity gradually decreases. This makes us significantly more vulnerable to the effects of poor air quality, especially during sleep, when we spend 7 to 8 continuous hours breathing that same air. A study in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology found that higher dust concentrations in bedrooms were associated with a 200% increase in respiratory symptoms in adults over 65. 200%. That's not a small difference. But it's not just your physical health that's affected. There's a psychological component too. Traditional feng shui principles have long held that clutter under the bed disrupts energy flow and can affect sleep quality. While you might not subscribe to these specific beliefs, modern psychology has found similar connections. Dr. Lisa Meltzer, a sleep psychologist, notes that our brains register our environments even when we're asleep. A cluttered space, even one you can't see but know is there, can create subconscious feelings of stress and disorganization that affect sleep architecture. In other words, knowing there's chaos under your bed might be keeping you from reaching those deeper, more restorative stages of sleep. I understand that for many of us living in New York, space is at an absolute premium. A one-bedroom apartment here is often the size of a walk-in closet in other parts of the country. So what are we supposed to do if we can't use that valuable under-bed space? This was exactly the challenge facing Frank, a 68-year-old retired teacher living in a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. Frank had been dealing with increasingly frequent asthma attacks, often waking up in the middle of the night wheezing and reaching for his inhaler. When I visited Frank's apartment, it was meticulously organized. He developed clever storage solutions throughout his small space. But when I asked about under his bed, he showed me what he called his archive system. Dozens of plastic containers filled with books, papers, old clothing, and mementos. I have nowhere else to put this stuff, he told me, and I can't bear to throw it away. Together, we came up with a 3-part solution. First, we did an honest assessment of what he truly needed to keep. Second, for those items, we found alternative storage locations using vertical space in his apartment. And third, we completely cleared out the space under his bed and implemented a regular cleaning schedule. The results? Within just 3 weeks, Frank reported using his rescue inhaler 70% less frequently at night. 3 months later, his doctor was able to reduce his maintenance medication. I never connected my breathing problems to what was under my bed, Frank told me. Who would have thought something so simple could make such a difference? Let me share some of the most common mistakes I see when it comes to underbed storage so you can avoid them. First, use unsealed plastic containers. These might seem organized, but they still allow dust to settle on the contents and then get disturbed every time you move in bed. Second, the out-of-sight, out-of-mind approach, where things get shoved under the bed and forgotten for years. If you've ever found something under your bed and couldn't remember when you put it there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Third, forget to include the underbed area in your regular cleaning routine. Even if you keep items stored there, they need to be removed and the area thoroughly vacuumed frequently. Fourth, storing items with potential allergens like woolen blankets, old books, or items that might have gotten damp at some point and developed mold spores. So, what's the solution if you live in a space-challenged New York apartment? Here's my step-by-step approach. Step 1. Clear everything out from under your bed. And I mean everything. Do this when you have energy, and ideally with help if you need it. For my clients over 65, I always recommend having someone assist with this to avoid strain or injury from bending and lifting. Step 2. While the space is empty, thoroughly clean it. Use a vacuum with a HEPA filter, if possible, which traps smaller particles that other vacuums might recirculate into the air. Step 3. Honestly evaluate each item you've removed. Ask yourself, when was the last time I used this? Does it have genuine sentimental value? Would something negative happen if I didn't have this anymore? Be ruthless here. Most of us need far fewer possessions than we think. Step 4. For items you truly need to keep but don't use regularly, consider alternative storage solutions. Wall-mounted shelves utilize vertical space efficiently. Over-door organizers turn unused space into storage. Vacuum-sealed bags can compress seasonal clothing to fit in closets. Step 5. If you absolutely must use underbed space for storage, invest in sealed containers specifically designed for this purpose, with tight-fitting lids that prevent dust accumulation. Limit yourself to items that are clean, completely dry, and used at least semi-regularly. Step 6. Establish a regular maintenance schedule. Mark your calendar to remove and clean underbed storage containers every 3 months and vacuum the space weekly. For those of you dealing with mobility issues that make bending and cleaning difficult, consider these options. A bed skirt that reaches the floor can help reduce the amount of dust that collects underneath. Bed risers can make the space under your bed slightly higher, making it easier to reach for cleaning. Long-handled cleaning tools, specifically designed for reaching under furniture, can help you maintain the space without having to bend down as much. Or, best of all, consider a platform bed that sits directly on the floor, eliminating the underbed space entirely. I worked with Elaine, an 82-year-old living in a studio apartment in Manhattan's Upper West Side, to implement this last solution. With her limited mobility, cleaning under her bed had become impossible. We replaced her traditional bed frame with a platform style that eliminated the underbed space. After initially worrying about losing storage, she later told me, "I sleep better knowing there's nothing gathering dust under there. And my apartment actually feels more spacious without all those storage bins peeking out." Think about it this way. The space where you sleep should be as clean and clear as possible. You wouldn't choose to sleep with your head next to a dusty, cluttered closet, would you? Yet many of us are essentially doing just that, with only a mattress separating us from what amounts to an unattended storage unit. The quality of the air you breathe for 8 hours every night deserves your attention. By clearing the space under your bed, you're not just organizing your bedroom. Now, let's talk about something most of us have in our bedrooms that we think is making things better, but might actually be doing just the opposite. I'm talking about scented candles, plug-in air fresheners, room sprays, and diffusers with synthetic fragrances. I understand the appeal. There's something deeply comforting about walking into a bedroom that smells like lavender, vanilla, or fresh linen. It feels like part of creating a relaxing, pleasant environment. But here's what most people don't realize. Many of these scented products are introducing a complex cocktail of chemicals into the very air you breathe, all night long. Let's get scientific for a moment. Most scented products contain what are called volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These are chemicals that easily evaporate at room temperature. That's actually how they release their scent. However, according to research from the Environmental Protection Agency, VOCs can cause a range of health problems, from eye and respiratory tract irritation in the short term to liver and kidney damage with long-term exposure. What's particularly concerning for those of us over 60 is that our bodies process these chemicals differently than younger adults. Dr. Elena Ramirez, a toxicologist at Columbia University Medical Center, explains, "As we age, our liver and kidneys become less efficient at filtering toxins from our system. Additionally, older adults typically have less body water and more body fat, which causes some chemicals to become more concentrated in the bloodstream and remain in the body longer." In simpler terms, the same candle that might cause minimal issues for your 30-year-old daughter could be triggering headaches, respiratory problems, and sleep disturbances for you. Let me tell you about some specific chemicals you should be aware of. Phthalates are commonly used in fragrance products to make scents last longer. These chemicals have been linked to hormonal disruptions and reproductive issues and may exacerbate respiratory conditions like asthma. A study by the Natural Resources Defense Council found phthalates in 12 out of 14 common air fresheners, including those marketed as all-natural. Formaldehyde, a known carcinogen, can be released when certain fragrances are heated, like when you light a scented candle. It's a respiratory irritant that can trigger asthma attacks and cause burning sensations in the eyes, nose, and throat. Benzene and toluene, often found in petroleum-based candles, are classified as carcinogens by the American Cancer Society and can cause nervous system damage with long-term exposure. And limonene, a chemical that gives citrus scents their distinctive smell, can react with ozone in the air to create formaldehyde, turning what seems like a fresh, clean scent into something potentially harmful. What makes this particularly concerning is the cumulative effect. One scented candle used occasionally might not be a major issue. But most of us don't stop at one. We have the candle in the bedroom, the plug-in in the bathroom, the diffuser in the living room, scented laundry detergent on our sheets, and air freshener in our closets. Each one adds to your total exposure. The situation is even more pronounced in urban environments like New York. The American Lung Association's 2023 State of the Air report found that New York City ranked among the top 15 most polluted cities for year-round particle pollution. When you add indoor VOCs to already compromised air quality, you're potentially creating a perfect storm for respiratory issues. I worked with Maria, a 70-year-old grandmother living in Queens who had developed what her doctor called late-onset asthma. She needed an inhaler for the first time in her life and was experiencing frequent headaches. What struck me when I entered her apartment was the beautiful layered scents. A vanilla candle burning in the living room, a plug-in lavender freshener in the hallway, and a diffuser with calming blend oils in her bedroom. Maria was surprised when I suggested her fragrance products might be contributing to her breathing problems. But they're from high-end stores, she told me. The packaging says natural and essential oils. This brings me to one of the most common misconceptions I encounter: the belief that natural or organic on a label means the product is automatically safe. Unfortunately, these terms aren't strictly regulated in fragrance products. A candle labeled "made with essential oils" might still contain synthetic fragrances and chemical carriers. The phrase just means some amount of essential oil is included, not that it's the only ingredient. Another mistake many of us make is using scented products to mask odors rather than addressing their source. If your bedroom has a musty smell, adding a layer of artificial fragrance doesn't solve the underlying issue, which could be excess humidity, mold, or dust accumulation. And perhaps the most common mistake is simply not reading labels. Many people are shocked to learn that manufacturers of fragrance products aren't required to list all ingredients. The term fragrance or parfum on a label can legally represent a proprietary blend of dozens or even hundreds of chemicals. So let's talk about healthier alternatives, because I understand we all want our bedrooms to smell pleasant. First, focus on improving natural air quality through regular cleaning and adequate ventilation. Open windows when weather permits. Even in New York City, there are times when the outdoor air can help refresh your indoor environment. Second, consider truly natural alternatives. Fresh flowers or potted plants not only look beautiful, but can actually improve air quality. Plants like peace lilies, snake plants, and aloe vera are particularly effective at filtering indoor air pollutants. Just be sure you're not allergic to any plants you bring into your bedroom. Beeswax candles with cotton wicks and pure essential oils are a better alternative to petroleum-based, artificially scented candles. Beeswax actually helps purify the air by releasing negative ions that can bind with toxins and help remove them from the air. DIY room fresheners are surprisingly easy to make. I helped Gloria, an 82-year-old client in the Bronx, create simple sachets filled with dried lavender and rosemary from her community garden. She places these in her dresser drawers and under her pillows for a subtle, natural scent. Simmering pots are another wonderful option. Simply place cinnamon sticks, orange peels, cloves, or vanilla beans in a small pot of water on low heat. The gentle warming releases natural fragrances without any chemical additives. And if you do purchase commercial products, be a careful consumer. Look for candles made from beeswax, soy, or coconut wax with cotton or wood wicks. Avoid any product with fragrance or parfum listed as an ingredient without further specification. Choose essential oil diffusers over synthetic air fresheners, but remember that even natural essential oils should be used sparingly, as they still release compounds into the air. Reach out to companies directly if ingredient information isn't clear. Reputable companies should be transparent about what's in their products. I remember working with James, a 75-year-old retired professor living in a beautiful apartment overlooking Central Park. James had a collection of luxury scented candles he'd received as gifts over the years. He prided himself on his sophisticated taste and enjoyed having a different scent for each season. But James had also developed chronic sinusitis that seemed resistant to treatment. After we had a conversation about his candles, he agreed to an experiment: 2 weeks without burning any scented products in his bedroom. The improvement was dramatic. His congestion decreased substantially, his sleep improved, and perhaps most surprisingly to him, he found he could smell the subtle natural scents in his environment much better. The fresh air from the park, the aroma of his morning coffee, the smell of books in his study. "I thought I was creating a more sensory environment," he told me, "but I was actually dulling my senses with all those artificial fragrances." This doesn't mean you need to live in an odorless environment. Our sense of smell is powerful and closely connected to memory and emotion. However, consider whether the short-term pleasure of artificial fragrances is worth the potential long-term impact on your respiratory health and sleep quality. Many of my clients find that once they've removed synthetic fragrances from their bedrooms, they develop a new appreciation for subtle, natural scents. They sleep better, breathe easier, and experience fewer unexplained symptoms like headaches or scratchy throats in the morning. Think of your bedroom as your personal breathing space, a sanctuary where your lungs can rest and recover. The air quality in this room deserves your careful attention, especially during your senior years, when respiratory health becomes increasingly precious. Now that we've cleared the air quite literally, let's look up at something many of us overlook when thinking about bedroom health. Those heavy, dark curtains that might be affecting more than just the light in your room. We've finally arrived at our fifth and perhaps most challenging item to remove from your bedroom: electronic devices, especially your smartphone. I say challenging because for many of us, our phones have become almost an extension of ourselves. They're the last thing we check before closing our eyes, and the first thing we reach for upon waking. However, this intimate relationship with our devices might be sabotaging our sleep and health in ways that are particularly problematic for those of us over 60. Let me explain why. First, let's talk about blue light. That specific wavelength of light emitted by phones, tablets, computers, and LED televisions. Harvard researchers have found that blue light is especially potent at suppressing melatonin production, much more so than other light wavelengths. While this affects people of all ages, recent studies from the University of California show that older adults are even more sensitive to this effect. Dr. Sarah Williams, a neurologist specializing in sleep medicine at NYU Langone, explains, "As we age, our sleep architecture naturally changes. We experience less deep sleep, more nighttime awakenings, and shifts in our circadian timing. Adding blue light exposure before bed essentially amplifies these age-related sleep challenges." In practical terms, scrolling through your phone at 10 p.m. could delay your body's melatonin production by up to 3 hours. That means even when you think you're ready for sleep, your brain is still physiologically in an alert state. But it's not just the blue light. There's growing evidence about electromagnetic fields, EMFs, emitted by electronic devices. While research is still evolving, several studies, including one from the Bioelectromagnetic Society, suggest that EMF exposure before and during sleep can affect sleep quality by altering our brain's electrical activity during crucial sleep stages. For older adults who already experience more fragmented sleep, this additional disruption can be significant. Some research indicates that EMF exposure may reduce the amount of restorative slow-wave sleep, which is already diminished in older adults and crucial for memory consolidation and cellular repair. Beyond the physical aspects, there's a powerful psychological component to having devices in the bedroom. Many of my clients over 60 have developed bedtime habits of checking news, social media, or emails, activities that stimulate rather than relax the mind. I worked with Harold, a 78-year-old retired finance professional living in Midtown Manhattan, who described his nightly routine. I get into bed, check the stock market one last time, read the latest news, maybe play a quick game, answer any late emails, and then try to sleep. The problem was, he often couldn't fall asleep for hours afterward, and when he did, his sleep was restless. What Harold was experiencing was what sleep scientists call cognitive arousal. His mind was being activated precisely when it needed to be winding down. News about the economy, political updates, or even innocent social media browsing triggers emotional and intellectual responses that can keep our minds racing long after we've put the phone down. I understand that for many older adults, especially those living alone, electronic devices provide a crucial sense of connection and safety. This creates a modern challenge. How do we balance the legitimate security and health monitoring benefits of technology with the need for uninterrupted, quality sleep? Anna, an 84-year-old widow living alone in Queens, expressed this concern perfectly. "My children bought me this smartphone so I could call for help if I fall. How can I keep it nearby but not have it disturb my sleep?" Before I share some practical solutions to this dilemma, let's talk about some common mistakes many of us make. First, using your phone as an alarm clock. This practically guarantees you'll check other apps before bed and first thing in the morning. It also makes it far too easy to check the time if you wake during the night, exposing yourself to sleep-disrupting light and potentially triggering anxiety about how much sleep time remains. Second, having a television in the bedroom. Many people believe watching TV helps them fall asleep, and it might seem to in the short term. However, research consistently shows that it reduces overall sleep quality and can actually contribute to feeling less rested despite spending adequate time in bed. Third, charging multiple devices in your bedroom overnight. Not only does this create EMF exposure, but the small indicator lights can disrupt sleep more than you realize. Our eyes are sensitive to even minimal light during sleep, which can prevent reaching deeper sleep stages. So what are the solutions? Let me offer some practical approaches that acknowledge both the benefits and risks of technology for older adults. First, create an electronics-free zone in your bedroom. This doesn't have to be all or nothing. Start by establishing a device boundary, perhaps a rule that devices stay outside a 6-foot radius of your bed. This small change alone can significantly reduce both blue light and EMF exposure during sleep. Second, if you absolutely need your phone nearby for emergency purposes, put it in airplane mode and place it face down, preferably in a drawer or at least several feet from your head. For medical alert devices that need to remain active, place them as far from your pillow as their effective range allows. Third, leverage technology itself to mitigate some of these issues. Blue light filtering glasses worn for 2 to 3 hours before bedtime can reduce blue light exposure by up to 90%. Most smartphones now have night mode settings that reduce blue light emissions. Apps like F-Lux or built-in features like Night Shift automatically adjust your screen color to warmer tones in the evening. Fourth, establish a digital sunset time. Ideally 60 to 90 minutes before bed, when you disconnect from devices completely. This gives your brain the transition time it needs to begin producing melatonin naturally. Perhaps most importantly, develop alternative bedtime rituals that don't involve screens. Reading physical books or magazines with warm, indirect lighting. Listening to calming audio content like audiobooks, relaxation guides, or soft music through speakers rather than headphones. Gentle stretching or bedtime yoga specifically designed for older adults. Meditation or progressive relaxation exercises. Writing in a gratitude journal to end the day on a positive note. Barbara, a 70-year-old retired teacher living in Staten Island, had struggled with chronic insomnia for years. Her typical evening involved watching the news in bed, followed by checking social media and reading articles on her tablet until she felt tired enough to sleep. Yet, despite feeling exhausted, she would lie awake for hours. We worked together to create a new evening routine. At 8:30 p.m. each night, she began her digital sunset, turning off the TV and putting her phone and tablet in the living room to charge. She would then take a warm shower, make a cup of caffeine-free tea, and read poetry or light fiction in a comfortable chair in her bedroom until she felt sleepy. The first few nights were hard, she admitted. I felt almost anxious without my devices, like I was missing something important. But by the end of the week, I noticed I was falling asleep faster and waking up less during the night. After a month, Barbara reported that her sleep quality had improved dramatically. She was falling asleep within 20 minutes of getting into bed and waking up feeling refreshed for the first time in years. I never realized how much those devices were stimulating my brain, she told me. Now I see my bedroom as a true sanctuary. For those with specific health monitoring needs, consider newer alternatives that minimize disruption. For instance, some medical alert systems now use radio frequencies rather than cellular technology, reducing EMF emissions. Several health monitoring devices can collect data overnight without requiring you to check them until morning. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate technology from your life. It's to create boundaries that allow both technology and your body's natural sleep processes to function optimally. Your bedroom should be a space dedicated primarily to rest and rejuvenation. Think of it this way. For most of human history, our evenings were lit only by fire and moonlight, and our social interactions ended when people physically left our presence. Our bodies evolved under these conditions. While technology has brought us incredible benefits, our biology hasn't caught up with these rapid changes. By creating a sleep environment that more closely mimics the conditions our bodies expect, we can often resolve sleep problems that might otherwise be attributed simply to aging. Better sleep leads to better days, with improved memory, mood, energy, and overall health. I've shared 5 items to remove from your bedroom that could be affecting your health and sleep quality after age 60. Old pillows, harboring allergens, clutter under your bed, collecting dust, synthetic fragrances releasing harmful chemicals, heavy curtains blocking natural light, and electronic devices disrupting your sleep cycles. None of these changes require major renovations or significant expense, but together they can transform your bedroom into a true sanctuary for health and rejuvenation. Remember, as we age, quality sleep becomes even more precious. It's when our bodies repair, our minds consolidate memories, and our immune systems strengthen. You deserve a bedroom that supports your health in every way possible. Which of these 5 changes will you implement first? Perhaps start with the one that resonated most with you. Make that change tonight and notice how differently you feel tomorrow morning. Your future self will thank you for taking these simple steps toward better health and more restful sleep. We've covered a lot of ground today, looking at 5 seemingly innocent items in your bedroom that could be silently affecting your health and quality of life after 60. Let's quickly recap what we've learned. First, those old pillows that might be harboring millions of dust mites, bacteria, and allergens right where you lay your head every night. Second, the clutter under your bed collects dust and disrupts airflow, potentially aggravating respiratory conditions and affecting your sleep quality. Third, scented candles and air fresheners release harmful VOCs and chemicals that your aging body processes differently than it did in your younger years. Fourth, heavy dark curtains disrupt your natural circadian rhythm and block the morning light your body needs to regulate sleep, mood, and even bone health. And finally, electronic devices emit blue light and electromagnetic fields that interfere with your sleep cycles, which are already more fragile after 60. The wonderful thing about these changes is that they don't require major renovations or expenses. Small, thoughtful adjustments to your bedroom environment can significantly improve your sleep quality and overall health. I'd love to hear from you. Which of these items resonated most with your situation? Have you already made any of these changes? And if so, what differences have you noticed? Or do you have other bedroom health tips that have worked well for you? Share your experiences in the comments below. And don't hesitate to ask questions. Our community of viewers has so much wisdom to offer each other. If you found this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more practical health tips for vibrant aging. And if you know someone who might benefit from this information, sharing is caring. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Here's to better sleep, better health, and better days ahead. Sweet dreams.